podcast, it turns out that the Democrat Party is so cringe. They're just so cringe. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Oh, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. I am exhausted. I have been trying to consume as much of the leftist response to Doge, to Donald Trump, to Elon. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because the Democrats, I talk about this in all my books, the Democrats are really good at talking points. They're really good at messaging. They're really good at branding. They focus group test everything, and they come out with talking points that are literally bullshit, but persuasive for the average person, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pulling on heartstrings.
Made for TV moments, right?
They have been caught flat-footed by everything Donald Trump has done. He has come out in the first 2 weeks of his second term, guns blazing, moving as fast as humanly possible, doing what the Trump administration calls flooding the zone, doing so much so quickly that the left and the mainstream media can't actually give it coverage, because the minute they start covering it, something else happens, right?
Yeah, it's fast.
And you're seeing, as a result, they don't have the time to run the focus groups. They don't have the time to call the assistants and the aides and the advisors. They don't have time to workshop it. Like, before Donald Trump says we're changing Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, that was never workshopped in Democrat Party. Democrat operatives. They never said how they would fight back. It didn't exist. So what we're getting are the Democrats quite literally shooting from the hip. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they need to do. They're throwing everything at the wall and they're hoping something sticks, which is how you get to Chuck Schumer, of all people, leading the protest. They're really mad that Elon Musk and his over-caffeinated Doge team are going department by department, agency by agency, writing code to go through the budgets to find the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. They're really pissed because it's gotten to their own honey hole.
Yeah.
It's gotten to USAID, $50 some odd billion a year. We're learning more today about what USAID was into. I think all told across the entire government was paying $8 million to Politico alone just for memberships.
Unbelievable.
Did you see that today?
No, I'm looking at the Doge stuff now, and some of the places they're just pointing out, like, all these payments to Bureau of Land Management. There was a contract. I mean, what do all these contracts even represent? And they're for millions, Max. They're like, where was this money going? And I think that you're alluding to that, because where was all these billions going? You could run a small terrorist organization with all of the money that was in USAID, and that's kind of how they were acting.
So the George Soros organization that was putting leftist prosecutors in city positions to try and bring socialism and open doors and no cash bail and all that. Remember that organization run by George Soros and his son Alex Soros?
Yeah.
That organization just so conveniently also happened to be the recipient of USAID funding. I want to say to the tune of $25 million, if I remember correctly.
You know what we could do with $25 million if we were an organization? Oh my gosh. Holy crap.
Which is what makes it even funnier when you see the talking point that the Democrats are testing is that Elon Musk, no one elected Elon Musk. Well, no, they elected Donald Trump, and Donald Trump promised to let Elon loose, right? So the fact that USAID was paying the Soros leftist organization all this money, it makes it even funnier when you see Chuck Schumer put out this tweet. An unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government. Look who
really?
retweeted it.
Alex Soros. That's calling the kid black there, isn't that right?
Yes.
Wow.
And this is how you know they have no self-awareness. Or maybe they just don't care, right?
Yeah.
Before this, the Soros team, they were the unelected shadow government funding primaries, funding
Yeah.
elections, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see this, it just cracks me up. It cracks me up because it's so tone deaf, but it also shows that they don't think they did anything wrong. They think it's
No.
okay for them to do it. The minute that Donald
Yes.
Trump and Elon Musk let loose. And again, this isn't for personal enrichment. This is let's find the fat and cut it.
Yeah. They're pissed that now we know where the money's starting to go, or at least it's coming to light what they were doing with our tax dollars. The same billions of dollars that they said that
Yeah.
they needed over and over and over and over, right? And they're going to realize it started going to like DEI programs. It started going to really weird, like even undisclosed payments to people in Africa. I mean, like, what does that stuff mean? Could you imagine like trying to write a bunch of checks as an organization? They ask you who did you cut it to, and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. What did
I don't
this
know.
what did
I
this
just
$32,000 check go to? Why do you send $32,000 to an organization in Peru?
yeah
Oh, that was to fund a trans comic book
yeah.
in
And,
Peru.
and then the 20 grand a pop per performance for whatever a DEI crew
Oh
like.
yeah, the
Yeah.
$47,000 for the transgender opera in Colombia,
Oh,
right? The
unbelievable.
$70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland.
Max, and the thing is that did anybody just check to see if they actually did the opera, or they did all the stuff that the money was earmarked for? Like,
Well,
there's
did
no
it cost that
accountability.
much?
Yeah, like there's no accountability coming and going on this. And it sounds to me like Democrats were operating a shadow government for 4 years under Joe Biden, since he had no direct hand in any of this, right? Because he didn't even know what was going on. And now they're getting popped for it. And it's classic projectionism. That's all Chuck Schumer's doing here. We have to try to blame them for exactly what we're doing. They did it with Russiagate. They did it with the Hunter Biden laptop. They did it with,
Yeah,
fill in the witch hunt stuff with Donald Trump, and they're just pissed they got busted. You're right. And then so where are they going to go with this? Like, they're going to melt
yeah.
down at some point here.
When I was in college, I studied Arabic. I was an Arabic minor, and so got up to 4 years of Arabic because I studied abroad
Well,
and took dialects. Right, took Middle Eastern studies. I really wanted to get into like foreign affairs. USAID interested me because you could apparently do good work.
mhm.
I remember I went to a conference where they had the former head of USAID there, and there were two stories he told that really struck me and made me realize that USAID, they're a bunch of idiots and there's a lot of corruption. He wasn't explaining it that way. He was saying, "Oh, it's just we make mistakes." He told me one story about how they wanted to help a Mexican village that had a drought. And so they said, okay, they rushed all this money together, bought all this corn, and shipped this corn to the Mexican village. No one asked the Mexican village if they wanted corn. No one asked the Mexican village if they needed corn. Also, no one asked the Mexican village if they ate corn. What they ended up doing is they sent a species of corn that in that part of the world is exclusively used for livestock. It would be like a hurricane hitting Florida, and you say, "Oh, they're hungry. Let's send them a truck full of chicken feed." Right? It just you don't do it.
Yeah.
So they gave it to their livestock, but it was a ton, and it just rotted. It just rotted. And at the end, they didn't have money to send the right corn, so the people were still hungry. Another story they
What
told me, and
waste.
I've seen this rumor come up before, is that there was someone, I want to say it was Afghanistan or somewhere in the Middle East. They started a private charity for girls' education. They got all this money, and then they sent their daughter to private school.
Unbelievable.
Technically, they did what they wanted to do. Technically, they prioritized young girls' education. Just happened to be
I mean,
that
they're
it was their own child going to a
yeah.
very elite school. It just you realize that these people are inept. These people are very dumb, and it's USAID. People say USAID. No, it's the Agency for International Development,
Mm.
and it's basically the CIA. Like, do you remember how they finally found like Osama bin Laden? They had the woman who told them where he was. But before that, they were running, I believe it was like a vaccine clinic, some kind of health clinic, where they were collecting DNA of people in Pakistan to see if maybe they could find a relative, they could find people
Somebody
related
close.
to
Yeah.
targets, right? That is what USAID does. They are that kind of arm of the CIA.
No
They
wonder.
do the aid and the assistance, but it is not just for the joy of helping people. It is to further the CIA, NSA, all their interests, right? So very funny, after that happened, the CIA pledged to never again use health clinics for intelligence work.
Sure.
USAID did not make the same promise.
Oh, well, that explains a lot, actually, when it comes to some of the overseas work they were doing. Wasn't there money for like vaccinations and stuff too that have been going on for a long time through them, and just general like welfare checks and stuff like that. So, how many
Yeah,
billions of dollars did they pump into like going over there? And
yeah.
was
Oh,
it actually all
50 billion a
spent?
year.
Where did it?
50 billion a year.
Unbelievable!
USAID
Unbelievable!
ran an HIV AIDS program
Yeah.
in Cuba, but it was actually just designed to foment an insurrection and to get the people of Cuba to rebel against the communist dictatorship.
So if it's acting as an arm of the CIA, USAID, I mean, it sounds shady as AF. You know what I mean? Like, oh. So what are they doing with all those billions of dollars? Like fomenting
Yeah.
insurrections? Holy
Well,
crap!
we know that they're funding a lot of news outlets. And the way that
Oh,
the way that the scheme seems to work is that the government says, "Hey, we need a membership for this news outlet because they're going to write about the government. We need to be able to see the articles, and they're behind a paywall. So we need memberships, and not just one membership. Pretty much everyone needs a membership,
holy crap!
so that if they write something and we need to react to it, they can see what they're reacting to. So Politico got a huge sum of money. Number I'm seeing is 8 million. It looks like only 44,000 of that came from USAID, but across all the government, adding up all the different things, 8 million it looks like. 8 million. And I don't think it's a coincidence. They're saying it was a technical issue. But the day after USAID was shuttered, Politico didn't make payroll.
Holy crap!
Yes.
So were they ever involved with like actually running a news organization, or were they running a
They're running a news organization.
propaganda outlet?
The way it works is the government pays Politico. The way I presume it works, based on what we've seen, government pays Politico. Politico writes nice things about the government, bad things about Republicans. The Democrat government keeps paying Politico.
But that sounds like something a fascist government would do,
Yes.
Max.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Definitionally, that is a fascist move, right? And, and how long were these payments happening, and who were they happening under? Was it Joe Biden?
Last couple years. Last couple years. These aren't
Oh,
legacy things. Last couple years. We know
oh,
that I want to say millions of dollars went into the what's the British NPR? What's that? What's it called?
oh,
Just completely
BBC.
escaped me. BBC. BBC as a charity. USAID paid millions into BBC's charity. They say, well, that's not going to BBC, that's going to charity. Well, every dollar that gets paid into BBC's charity, BBC doesn't itself have to donate, right? So every year BBC pays money into its charity. If the United States government, USAID, puts a couple $1,000,000 into the charity, then BBC doesn't have to pay into it, right? USAID was funding and funneling money to the fact checkers around the world.
Oh my God, seriously?
It's not
Whoa.
about aid. The name has aid in it. But what it's about is international development and making sure that countries develop in a way that apparently aligns with the United States interests, which is why they were doing trans comic books in Peru, trans operas in Colombia, and DEI musicals in Ireland, because they want those countries to turn woke. They want trans issues, DEI, to basically take root in those countries, because that's in the Biden administration's interests.
I'm just sitting here. I'm thinking, well, why would anybody ever print anything negative about Democrats in an election cycle when you're busy paying everyone's salaries? We now know kind of why. Like that whole press pool was really friendly with Saki and the last girl that was there. They were just friendly. They were like there were hugs and people going to people's parties and stuff like that. They didn't seem like a real press pool.
Yeah.
And Politico was there a lot. Politico had a lot of stories that
Hmm.
helped Joe Biden, especially during the election cycle. So, what's the accountability on this? Is there any repercussions for something like that? I
It
mean,
looks like this was just a slush fund. It
oh my
looks like this was
gosh.
just a slush fund that, listen, not just Democrats, also center Republicans as well. Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, he is a director at an organization called the International Republican Institute. It is a nonprofit and it receives funding from USAID. Government funding, active grants, $9.2 million in active grants.
Holy sh!
Past funding that they found, 130 plus million dollars. Now he's just a director. He's just involved with it,
Sure,
right? But it's across the board.
because you know
It,
he's
it
probably getting a salary from.
yeah, it's across the board. Oh we need food. Oh, well why don't we go with this vendor, right? It is not just about helping people who are poor, who are sick, who are hungry. It is about propping up the preferred class in Washington D.C. and advancing the leftist ideology as far as you can.
That feels like a shadow government. That feels like a slush fund for a shadow government. The same shadow government that I think some one of us got put in timeout jail for just kind of mentioning
Yeah,
in passing on a old CD show, right? I
yeah,
mean, I think you got fact checked. There's no such thing as a shadow government, and here we are looking at the slush fund for it. It got paid, right? So now who's connected? There's all these dots are starting to get connected, and that's why you see a Chuck Schumer standing out there saying that this is the end of democracy, right? Because they got caught.
did I play that clip yet?
No,
Here's the clip of Chuck Schumer. This is why all the Democrats were all out there. This isn't fighting against this isn't even the most important issue, right? You would think that they'd be out in front of the DHS detention facility crying like AOC, right? You'd
oh
think maybe
yeah,
they'd be at the airport protesting the flights.
hmm
Maybe
hmm
they'd be protesting the trans stuff. No, they're outside USAID protesting the end of their honey hole. They're protesting like it's a honeypot. We found the honeypot, and they're all there like Winnie the Pooh, hands covered in honey, saying, "How dare you? How dare you close this program?" And they're not sending their best. The reason why today's podcast is titled "The Democrat Party is So Cringe" is because this was, I guess, the keynote from Chuck Schumer.
And we cannot allow Elon Musk and a small group of people to secretly, behind closed doors, take away our privacy, take away our dollars, take away everything we have. We are going to fight this fight. I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. We will win. We will win. We will
this is
win.
awful. This is
We
awful.
will win.
Oh, at least you guys
We
actually
won't
won it.
rest. We won't rest.
Yes.
We won't rest. We
Hey,
won't rest.
it looks like a Nazi salute he's doing there with her. I'm just saying, he's got his arm up in the air. I think that technically qualifies as that. You know,
You see Al Green there with the pimp cane? See that?
that's Al Green there. No, I saw Maxine Waters standing there,
Maxine
like.
was there. Look at Al Green. Al Green with his pimp cane. Waving his pimp cane in the air. We will win.
Right.
We will win. Shandy says Chuck Schumer and the Penguin are one in the same. No. Jerry
No.
Nadler and the Penguin are
Yeah.
one and the same.
Yeah. I would go with that. Like, I'm going to challenge Chandy Pants on that one all the
You're
way.
close. You're close, Chandy. But I'll go ahead and put up this picture of Jerry Nadler.
Nadler's just
Is my belief that Jerry Nadler is the Penguin.
and it's not even a real kind of cool penguin, right? And he's famous for pooping his pants and
I
doing the
know. Every time we talk about
side
it, we have
shuffle.
to pull it up. We have to.
What's
I have to. I'm now pulling up the video,
Oh,
and I'm
while you're
going.
doing that, I got to throw this one at you because if all of this USAID money was going to all these organizations that were working abroad and at home, how many of those groups affected the election cycle in the
Yes.
2020
Very good.
race, right?
Very
Because
good.
now you've got all these slush funds, you've got taxpayer dollars being able to send to essentially the groups that you want to leverage, right? And then they go out there and they act.
On this subject, not part of this
Oh, there he goes. Here's
but
the
part
waddle.
of preserving our democracy. With that, I'm pleased to yield to the
He's
distinguished
the penguin.
chairwoman.
It's a penguin. No, you're right. How many of these organizations probably were weaponized? We know the fact checkers were,
Yeah.
right? We know they were. We know that Politico and these other news outlets were. Elon commented on someone posting, basically said, expect more. That it's not just Politico. I assume that that's like the scheme, right? Write about government, put stuff behind a paywall, and then at least the government has to pay for the content behind the paywall so they know what you're writing about them. So I guarantee that they've done this for New York Times. I guarantee that they've done this for the New Yorker, right? For Washington Post.
I got. So let's say you're one of those organizations that was given these monies and you're a nonprofit. Can that nonprofit then donate money to a campaign?
Can the nonprofit? Yeah, not to a direct campaign.
Okay. But they'd be a
So
501c,
they,
like it changes you a little bit, right?
yeah, so you'd be a 501c3. You can't donate to a specific campaign, candidate, or party. But what they could do is they could engage in some educational outreach.
Okay.
Basically, like they wouldn't be able to campaign against Trump, but they could do a campaign that explains why mass deportations are unconscionable and people should vote against mass deportations. Things like that, right? But you
Okay,
can't
so like
actually,
the issues
yeah,
stuff, they
yes,
could
issue.
go after the issues, but they can't necessarily like promote a candidate. But what if a candidate's an issue candidate,
Yeah,
and it wouldn't stop them
everyone's an
from
issue
going
candidate.
out? Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's an issue
But
candidate.
But imagine taking taxpayer dollars though as that 501c and then going out and pushing those issues to the public,
Yeah,
trying to nudge them towards a particular candidate. And
that's the whole
there would
point.
be such a dirty, yeah, that's
That's the whole
what they're
point.
doing, isn't it? Oh my
That's the
God.
Agency for International Development. It just happened to
Oh,
be weaponized and turned on us. They do it abroad too, propping up the more American left-leaning news outlets so that they push out propaganda in their countries so that you can shape hearts and minds. That's the whole point of it, right?
you could buy commercials on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You could do anything. Like there would be nothing really stopping you from putting out what you want. And what the bastardization of the whole thing is that you're taking somebody's tax dollars who may not believe the same way, and you're secretly funneling it to these groups with
Yeah,
no accountability. Unreal,
yeah,
man. That's dirty. That's real
it is.
dirty.
It looks like Associated Press got $620,000 from government.
In the scheme of things, not a lot, but still they took money. And AP is supposed to be like the
Oh
gold
no,
standard for how we get
I'm
news.
seeing more than that actually. I'm seeing more than that. I'm seeing millions.
Now it's starting to make sense why you would see, because if they were to really turn an AI towards a lot of those old websites and something like the Wayback Machine, I bet you it was almost something like 10 to 1. The ads that were pro Democrat versus Republican, or at least news stories, or at least articles that came out, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. So it's looking at 13 recent transactions for 620,000. But if you look at over time, it all started right towards the end of Trump, right? End
Oh,
of
that's not a
Trump,
coincidence.
yep, beginning of all through Biden. And you look at this, look at these amounts. One bit was for almost 20 million, $19.5 million, 5.7
19.
million, 2.2 million, 1.7 million. And you start looking at, well, what is this all for? Let me open this in a new tab. So contract for enterprise-wide access to the wire services so they can know what the news is, right?
Yeah.
comprehensive daily international news feed, Newswire, contract, license authority for Newspower, Newswire. So this is all basically saying the government wants the news. The news writes about the government, so the government needs the news. So the government pays the news, and then the news is nice to the government. Because if the news is mean to the government or negative against the government, then the money stops coming in.
Fascist. Like, it's so dirty and it's so bastardized, man. And the thing is
it's hidden behind, we make sure people aren't hungry, we make sure people aren't sick. And no one ever dives in and slows it down or pauses it, because that means people will go hungry. People will stay sick.
And on top of that, with Doge uncovering that they never denied a payment, you could effectively create a contract, just put it in, and they would have paid it. They would have just paid the invoice. Like, did anybody check invoices, or was it just a rubber stamp invoice coming out of USAID?
Rubber stamp. It's not just USAID. It's every department had an AP Newswire.
Oh my God.
Every department was paying Politico. Every department is paying Washington Post. Every department. It's just a scam. Right? And then you start seeing that members of Congress are working on nonprofits that are getting 7 figures, 8 figures, 9-figure deals. Like, of course they don't want you to look behind the curtain.
Right. Why would they start? Any reason? Why would they have any reason to start looking? Like, the system was so dirty that
it helps enough Democrats and Republicans that no one would need to look.
Shit. So, like, it makes me feel like half of our elected officials are on the take. They've been bought out by an organization of the federal government. That sounds really strange.
USAID is basically the CIA. It's the feel-good arm of the CIA. So then you're like, well, who is really doing it? Then you start looking at that, right? And this week, what also came out this week, that every single employee at the CIA was offered a buyout. We'll pay you for 8 months if you never come back. Right? Same time that they shut down USAID, they offered to buy out every CIA employee. Now, they wouldn't let everyone quit because you need some people there.
You get rid of the non-Trump loyalists pretty quick. They would take the job. Man, and if that means the CIA is bankrolling our politicians and their organizations.
In a roundabout way.
But then they wouldn't have to do anything that we elect them to do, because they'll always get money from someone else to run for their office. So there's a shadow government.
No one touches the food for the hungry and medicine for the sick. No one will touch that.
And it would look bad politically if you tried to take it apart. How dare you try to take apart these poor kids not eating? Dude, it's the perfect cover.
And this is how you know that the Democrats aren't even on their A game. They're so flustered that not only are they about to lose, but they're about to be implicated. They're not even leading with the sick kids, hungry kids, starving kids. That is their go-to. Pull the heartstrings, right? That's usually their go-to. They're not even leading with it. They're leading with Chuck Schumer. We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. He's less than 4 months after they lost everything? Like, shouting, we will win, we will win, 2 weeks into the administration of the president who defeated your entire party everywhere. We will win means nothing. We will win means nothing. But here's another congresswoman at that same rally declaring that because Elon Musk went in, paused USAID, and then now shut it down when they found what was in it, she now says we are at war.
That we will not take this. We will fight back. Fight back. Fight back. And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate. We are at war. Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war. Thank you. Thank you.
she really want?
LaMonica McIver.
McIver.
That's one hell of a name.
Yeah.
LaMonica McIver says, "We are at war." Ayanna Presley, member of the Squad,
Oh.
she threatened that Democrats are going to, quote, bring the fire.
And I want to say to our Republican colleagues, pay attention. We're here today in the hopes that you will see the light. But if you do not see the light, we will bring the fire. Resist!
What? So
Right here. Got you. Thank you.
you can hear the one guy like, "Whoa, hold on, is that a cult of violence?"
Maybe that's Al Green with his pimp cane.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, no. So it is not a coincidence that while all of this is going on, Reddit has had to suspend entire subreddits because the people and the moderators are actively doxing members of Doge, trying to figure out where their family members live, trying to figure out if they have any kids, where their kids go to school,
Oh my God.
violence, saying that they're going to kill them.
Oh my God.
What this is, again, it feels like it's Groundhog Day.
Uh-huh.
After Donald Trump took a bullet to the ear, you and I both said it. What did they think would happen? The talking points, the narrative, the propaganda led to that very moment. Now we see it again here. Not because Donald Trump kicked people out of their homes, not because Donald Trump rounded people up into concentration camps like they said he would. Not because any of that. Because Elon Musk got access to the treasury systems to see where all the money is going, to who the money is going. And that, to them, is reason enough to resist, fight a war in the streets.
She said they're at war. Yeah, he's just uncovering where all the dollars are going, and they're willing to go to war over that. Like, think
They won't
about
fight
that
it.
as a statement.
They won't fight it. They want to gin up like a BLM style protest.
Sure.
Not over something that the people have been aggrieved over, not something that has hurt the people, something that's hurt the politicians. This has hurt their bottom line. It's hurt their interests. It's hurt their staffers' interests, right? It's hurt their donors' interests.
Their
And so they're out
501c3's interest, the everything that they have.
They're out
interest.
here saying, fight in the streets for my bottom line. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because the average Democrat voter in these cities say, hey, what do you think about Donald Trump saying that we're not going to give money overseas anymore? We're going to spend it here in America. You tell them that and say, damn right, we should do that. What do you think about Donald Trump rounding up all the illegal alien criminals and kicking them the hell out of the country? Average Democrat voter in these cities, hell yeah, we should do that. They can't turn the people against the policies because the policies are popular. They have to try and turn the people against Elon Musk.
Yeah.
They are swinging and missing because they are flailing. They can't keep their head on straight. They can't fight everything.
And Max, this, like you said, this is deja vu again, because now they go to a rhetoric that is violent. They go to a rhetoric that got Donald Trump almost assassinated. Yeah. He came within inches of losing his life. So not only are they doing what you just said, but now these people who have been part of their organizations are maybe they start rising up and they start following these instructions. They start bringing the fire. So why go to the violent rhetoric? Why go back to it? It's deja vu. Are they trying to get Republicans killed? Because she named them specifically, my Republican colleagues, right? Yeah. So that's like a dog whistle. Now, how many times have we heard that this is a dog whistle going after her?
Well, what she just offered them is do what we want. Otherwise, we're bringing the fire. That's not a request for people to work side by side.
No, you don't negotiate with ultimatums.
They are doing this because it literally threatens their livelihood. It threatens their donor class, right?
Oh, I think it threatens a little bit further than that, too. I think it affects their ability to run for office.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. They see the end of their political futures if they can't get out the vote. They can't get their organizations out there working. How many of these these organizations were working towards collecting ballots and were getting paid for by USAID through some sort of other organization or the other, right? How much of that money was funneled into that? And maybe that's what they see, is because if they don't have that that resource working towards going after Republicans, their ability to lose campaigns from here on out diminishes. So they're going to fight with this one like they're a wounded animal. They have to.
They were receiving money when they put out this. We watched 20 Trump rallies. His racist, anti-immigrant messaging is getting darker. This was put out by Politico when they were receiving that government money.
That's unreal, man.
You know what also Politico wrote about while they were receiving those millions of dollars in government money?
Hunter
They
Biden?
leaked
Oh.
the Supreme Court decision
Abortion
on Roe
rights.
versus Wade.
Yeah. When that came down and you're like, somebody leaked it, it was going to be hell to pay for whoever did it.
It was
Like,
leaked.
this is a big deal.
And guess what happened with the investigation? Nothing.
Nothing happened.
Nothing. So we know that DOJ and FBI are all paying for Politico memberships. Politico gets a stolen, leaked document from the Supreme Court, publishes it. Biden administration is happy that they published it, right? And then the same DOJ that's funneling money to Politico doesn't actually find the leaker.
That's unbelievable. Hey, I now kind of want to ask about the people who've been head of the CIA, because if this has been an arm essentially of the CIA, did James Clapper know these things were happening?
I'm sure.
Did some of these guys?
I'm sure.
Then what does that implicate for them, right? They're leveraging the power of the CIA to go after a political opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. That's
Yeah. Before we get there, I gotta finish this thought.
okay.
Not only did Politico leak it, right? And not only did the DOJ, who's paying Politico, in addition to USAID, all these government agencies, not actually find the leaker, right? Something that's also unique to this whole situation is the same cast of characters were out in front of the Supreme Court chanting the same bullshit. You'll remember, he's now under criminal investigation from the Trump DOJ. I don't know if you saw that. Here's Chuck Schumer in front of that protest.
Taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
This week, the Trump DOJ, U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia, sent Chuck Schumer a letter saying it has been brought to our attention that you said this, threatening the Supreme Court justices. We would like you to clarify your remarks. They have opened up an inquiry, an investigation, whatever you want to call it. They should just be doing what James Comey did, send people with a tape recorder and just ambush them, right?
Yeah.
But he is technically under a criminal investigation. But it's the same rhetoric. Notice it's the same exact rhetoric of give us what we want or we will bring the fire. Give us what we want or you will face the consequences. It's the same thing. It's the same cast of characters. It's right down the block from these two incidents.
Oh my God.
It's not a coincidence. This is all connected. It's all connected.
So who's been running the strings on this organization? That's why I was asking the James Clapper question. Like, is this the head of the CIA running this as an op? Is this just a shadowy group of people who have a lot of money? Or is it like those worldwide billionaires that everyone's like, they're out there trying to change the world? Alex Soros.
I mean, like, Soros isn't rich enough. You would think that Soros isn't rich enough to do this, right? Maybe
it's not about money.
It's not about money. It's about power. And it's about consistent money, right? Elon Musk could wake up tomorrow and have a different hobby. And then his money and his influence is gone, right?
Yeah.
Soros and the Soros family have been in this for the long haul for a long time.
Decades.
Just
50
like the
plus
Koch
years.
brothers, the Koch brothers were establishment Republican donors before them, right?
Yeah.
It is not that they don't want billionaires to be involved in the process. They're angry that it's our billionaire and not their billionaires. They're angry that the people they had entrenched in government and were convinced would continue to advance their interests. Oh, Donald Trump can say there's only a man and woman, but don't worry.
All right.
This office in USAID, they got the comic book in Peru. We'll still be funding the trans comic book in Peru. Nope, rip it out, root and stem.
So now I got to ask you. So it's our billionaire against their billionaire. So is that why people are suddenly directing their attacks at Elon Musk and the Doge people? Because it's the wrong billionaire that's trying to get the answers.
Yes.
That's essentially the argument you're laying out here. And it would mean that there's a small group of billionaires in the world who are driving everything.
Oh, they won't admit it. They'll say no billionaires. That's like how Bernie Sanders received a ton of money from the pharmaceutical industry. And his take on it is, yeah, but not the CEOs. I received money from everyone else in the pharmaceutical company, but not the CEO. As if that matters. He's limited. He can only donate some odd $1,000, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so the CEO didn't give you $2,000. Every other employee in the pharmaceutical company gave you money, Bernie. That's better than the CEO giving you $2,000.
So how do the Democrats survive as a party? Because now the lies are right in front of everybody. Now the lies can't be concealed in the news. Now we're starting to see that the lies that they were putting out were actual lies because of the organizations they were paying to carry the water for them when it comes to their propaganda. So what does the future of these politicians look like? Because the information that's coming out is damning. Every day there's something new that they get tied to. So
I believe these people, they like their lavish lifestyles. They like their parties, right? I don't think that these are the kinds of people who squirrel away money for a rainy day. I wouldn't be surprised if cutting off this funding actually hurts a lot of people in the Democrat orbit very quickly. As I said, they're saying it's just a coincidence. Right after the USAID payments stopped going to Politico, Politico said that they couldn't make payroll.
I mean, entire organization.
There's millions of dollars. I mean, not just through USAID, but Doge has cut off millions of dollars that were supposed to be going into Politico. It doesn't take a lot to not have enough for payroll, right?
You could just identify who the propagandists were just because now they don't have a payroll anymore. They cease to exist because nobody's actually consuming that news and paying for it, right? It's being artificially propped up by a bunch of dark money.
What's the so AstroTurf for everyone? There's grassroots. Those are people on the ground actually enacting change. If you want to pretend that something is grassroots and pump a bunch of money in it, it's called AstroTurf.
AstroTurf, yeah.
Fake grass, not real. Money from billionaires and special interests makes it look like something is an organic protest to get people to like it. What is the AstroTurf word for media that isn't real?
It's propaganda. It's always been propaganda. Like, yeah, something catchy.
Is it possible that most of the subscriptions for these websites come from the U.S. government? Is it possible?
The implications of what you're saying there is earth-shattering. It would prove that all of the stuff in the media has just been artificially generated by the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
But it would also explain why you would see all those supercuts of Democrat news outlets saying the same thing over and over and over. Mm-hmm. It would mean that there was these things that go out saying, say this, right? It would mean that there's a meeting. It would mean that there was a group that would probably meet to make sure the thought gets out.
Yeah.
And does it disappear overnight now? Like if that money goes away? I mean, what happens to an ABC, NBC, any of these organizations that might have gotten money? NPR. Like that'd be the next one. Like where's all that money?
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of convenient coincidences where media companies aren't going to make payroll. There's going to be layoffs, right? There's going to be restructuring.
Just be full doors closing, and people losing their jobs. That'll be the other thing. Is suddenly who's out on the street? Because if you work for them, you pretty much we're on board. So devastating. Like no wonder the Democrats are up in arms.
Yeah.
And Max, they're pinned against a wall. Like, do they Does this go up? Is this going to ratchet up on their side? It has to. But I wonder what your opinion on that's going to be. It's got to get worse before it gets better.
Has to get worse before it gets better. And things are going to get worse for these people right before we went to air.
No.
The FCC released the entirety of Kamala Harris's CBS interview. It was 53 minutes.
How much did we get? We got 15 minutes of it total? And is this completely unedited? Oh my God.
Unedited. Didn't have time to watch it. But I'm going to watch it. But like this is what real transparency looks like. Not only did the FCC post this just on YouTube, like here you go, people, watch it. They've also opened it up for public comment.
Whoa.
Saying that this was, what's the actual words that they use? What's the words that they actually used?
Yeah, because words are important, especially when it comes to government stuff.
They called it.
I'm getting my popcorn.
I forget what the FCC called it, but they basically had a new word for fake news, and they want the public to comment on it. So the public comment period is open. If you feel disgusted by the fact that CBS has a license to broadcast over public airwaves, and they don't pay for it because they're supposed to put out information that's in the public interest, that behind the scenes they are editing Kamala Harris's interview to make her sound more coherent so that they can advance her candidacy, go on over to the FCC's website and leave your public comment.
It's going to be devastating. Another devastating thing. Why does it feel like every other day during the Trump presidency, which is only 3 weeks old, we're saying things like devastating for Democrats? How do they come back from this?
They're calling it news distortion. It's a news distortion complaint.
The other part that really bugged me was now there was the fact checkers.
Yep.
That were being put in there. So they had a hand in making media that went out that had a specific message, and then they had somebody come and back it up. And if anybody tried to call it out, I especially remember you calling stuff out in the early days and getting fact checked for stuff. And it was bogus, but it would stick. It'd keep it off of Facebook. It would keep it off of whatever social media at the time. So what does that mean for the fact checkers? Why were they picked?
This is the worst fact checker of all. Lead stories. This is the one I would go up against. They would have an entertainment lawyer fact check me reporting on the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
And this guy worked for Hollywood Story, and obviously he's fact checking me. These are the ones that were the recipients of grants, part of that consortium of fact checkers. They lost all that influence when Facebook just kicked them to the curb. But you can tell what they had an interest in by what they're continuing to fact check. They no longer have the power to force it into people, but now what's happening is these fact checks are being linked to in community notes. So they have people in community notes linking to these fact checks to try and grassroots astroturf the fact check. And sure enough, they have declared that USAID did not give Politico $8 million. The $8 million was across all of government. I think that's better. I think that's better.
Lead stories. But these people were acting as propaganda like agents, I think is what we would call them, by quasi-government organization. Like the dirtiness here is gross. This is all slimy and greasy. It feels like a tentacled a monster, right? So who's at the heart of the monster? Is somebody running a shadow government now? I think we saw it in full force when Joe Biden couldn't make a decision on his own. So who's calling those shots?
There's a lot of special interests that you can tell by who is making a stink that, oh, they probably had their hand in the honeypot too. And one of them just came out with a statement, the AFL-CIO.
No.
They have announced that they are launching the Department of People Who Work for a Living. They are just mocking Doge. Today, the AFL-CIO has launched the Department of People Who Work for a Living, DPWL, a new campaign to hold Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, accountable and make sure the federal government is responsive to working people and not just to the whims of an unelected CEO like Musk. President Liz Schuler says the government can work for billionaires or it can work for working people, but not both. Elon is just getting started, and he has already tried to force workers doing essential services, including the FAA and air traffic controllers, even after the tragedy at Washington National Airport, to retire. Gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system with everyone's private data, and is declaring entire government agencies like USAID shut down and blocking workers from accessing the building and their email. We will hold Doge and Elon Musk accountable because we are certain that the people who keep our food and medicine safe know more about how to make government efficient than an outsider whose companies benefit from the very agencies he is infiltrating.
You know, this feels like a setup for like a soft civil war. You know, because once people who have been addicted to shadow money, because this is really what it is, it's just shadow money, it's theft of our money. Once they got addicted to it, how far are they willing to continue keeping it going? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have a president who won every swing state. He won Michigan. He won Wisconsin. He won Ohio. Right? He came within 5 points of winning Illinois. He won Pennsylvania. He came within 5 points of winning New Jersey. All union states. You would think that the first thing the AFL-CIO would do would be to try and find some common ground and find a way to work with the Trump administration to get something done to benefit union members. Instead, they are burning that bridge. They are burning it down to put a shit meme forward to make fun of and to resist Doge. I ask you, why does the AFL-CIO apparently care more about an agency that's supposed to just do foreign aid? We know that they do more than that. Why do they care about that more than helping their own members? What does the AFL-CIO gain from USAID?
Wow. And how much money were they, like, what is USAI or what is AFL-CIO up to? I mean, there's so many things, like, what, and then, sorry, I'm unpacking a little of what you just said there, because now you're starting to show that there's two sides in this fight. And I had somebody that I respect a lot talk about this. He goes, there's two sides to this fight. And I kept asking, well, who's the other side? And they wouldn't answer it because I don't think they could at the time. But you're starting to answer the side that was just taking money and trying to act as its own government. So if they're acting as their own government, isn't that treason?
If they're acting against the interests of the United States, yeah. What USAID says is, no, this isn't the interest. It is in the interest of the United States for there to be trans comic books in Peru. That's how twisted and warped they are, right? But yeah, no, it would be like, this is what's very revealing. We know the interests, and we know special interests are called that because they have an interest, right? The AFL-CIO is interested in union matters. Why are they going to war over foreign aid? It would be like the Chamber of Commerce all of a sudden getting in the fight over foreign aid. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
except for the fact that they have to be complicit. Their hand has to also be in the honey jar. And they're hoping that maybe the other question is, why are these people so adamant about getting in the building?
Yeah, what are they trying to do? Exactly. Because are they going to, is it
security? What's in that building?
Is it going to turn into a shred session? Are they going to break hard drives? Are they going to start like wiping information. And I was watching the video before we got him where they're just trying to get in. Ilhan
Yeah.
Omar's out there with another dude, and they're like, "Can we just get in the building?" And the answer is no. And they're like, "Is Doge in the building right now?" And they said, "There's 8 employees up there."
What is in the building, right? It's the reason why when people are fired, they aren't allowed to get back in the building. A lot
Yeah,
of times companies will fire people Monday morning just so they don't even drive in. Because you get in there, you break things, you steal things, you destroy
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? I don't want to get all Comet ping pong, but what's in the basement? Like, obviously, there's something in this building that very powerful people are trying to get their hands on.
And Donald Trump is and Doge have been directed to go in and seize the building. Like, are they collecting evidence? Like, it's like the bodies in the basement sort of talk, right?
Yeah.
Are all the bodies in the basement, quote unquote? And what are they uncovering?
Uh,
Because when Musk says this is the tip of the iceberg, I believe him.
We got something from Mandy. I want to ask her if she can elaborate. She says, I don't know if you guys saw Joe's response on his Facebook page to what Trump wants to do in Gaza, but I didn't have I agree with Joe Oltman on my 2025 bingo card. No, I didn't see that. Type in the
Yeah,
comments what he said. Um, my interpretation of it is that he is trying to get everyone in the Middle East against the United States, right? Because if he says, like Trump said, he wants to go into Gaza, rebuild it, and then the United States owns it. Well, obviously, Israel doesn't want that. Obviously, the Arab countries don't want that. So the best way to get Israel and the Arab countries to work together and rebuild Gaza on their own is to say, if you're not going to do it, we're going to do it, and then we own it.
yeah.
So I think he actually has no intention. I think part of him wants to develop it like a sea resort, but I think it's actually to try and pit them against the U.S. and basically
It,
have Saudi Arabia say, "Oh no, you're not going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild." It's
it
okay.
sounds
Rebuild
it
it.
kind of sounds like an art of the deal sort of move.
Yeah.
We'll do it if you don't.
It's
Oh,
like
you
it's
can't do
almost like
that.
like a reverse psychology kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
When he said it, I was like, this is just, it's a bluster. It's a move, which
But
you got to
then
do on the world stage sometimes.
you have Rand Paul saying, I thought we voted for America first. We have no business contemplating yet another occupation to doom our treasure. People just got to chill the F out,
Yeah.
right? This is why I hate it. I hate the news cycle. I hate this 24-hour news cycle where people have to get their jabs in, have to get their comments in, have to get eyeballs so we get donations, right?
Mhm.
Why can't they just say, "Huh, let's see what Donald Trump's doing here." Right? Because we just did that with tariffs. They ramped all the way up to trade war and then let down, right?
Yeah.
How about just let it play out? Just for once, maybe give Donald Trump a chance to work an art of the deal
Yeah.
without the media, Republicans, and Democrats trying to cut the legs out from under him.
But they just don't recognize it. And he's not going to share the plans with them. I mean, it's got to be assumed that they know. But yeah, most of those politicians just got to get their face out there instead of letting it happen for the greater good, because all the politicians are in it for themselves and their own political power. Very few are in there to actually help American people. Like, once they realize that, you just sit back and chill, let things develop. And Trump is doing that now. He's going hard. He's looking for the bodies. Apparently, USAID is where all the bodies were
That's where a
buried,
lot
quote
of them.
unquote.
But it makes complete sense, right? When you look at how Hamas gets weapons into Gaza, what do they hide the weapons in? They hide the weapons in aid shipments.
I
It
know.
makes
And then
complete sense. If we
you look
wanted to weaponize government, of course we would hide it in the aid shipments.
like, there's a picture I've got up now on my screen. There's two guys who look like terrorists, and they're in a makeshift facility here, and it's made out of USAID
Yeah,
plastic and coverings. And it's like, were these organizations inadvertently or directly funding terrorism then? Because how deep does that go across the world? Was there ever money or payments or stuff given to known terrorist organizations hiding behind some sort of banner of like a charity? And if so, when it was discovered, did they stop money or did they keep it going? Like, are there going to be some ties to organizations here that could have names like Al Qaeda, and Hamas, and it would be so damaging to people's political careers. It'd be almost terroristic.
I'm reading Joe's comment. It's the same. It's the same thing as basically same thing as Rand Paul. Like, what happened to America first? What happened? I thought we were doing this. Why would we help Israel? Why would we do?
It's a rant of a madman.
Yeah, sit back and let Trump play out. Give the man a chance. I think part of the problem is every time Donald Trump says something, there's a rush from everyone to show how smart they are and how dumb Donald Trump obviously is, right? For once, I would encourage everyone just to pause and think to yourself, what if Donald Trump actually knows what the hell he's doing?
I mean, he did just outthink the entire Democrat Party on an election.
Yeah.
His son did too. He might be the smartest guy in the room. Even I think it's Vance Jones was on a podcast recently, and he told everyone there, he goes, Trump's the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And you guys can't catch up yet. And he's not a Trump dude.
No, he's the
right?
opposite. Opposite.
But he sees that there's I hate to use the word genius with people, but there's a deep thought process that Trump uses when he does things now. And it's more so than his first term. In his first term, he was just trying to figure out government, and he had a job to do. Then he gets the whole Russian gate. He's coming out swinging like he's had a 4-year plan. He has spent 4 years figuring this stuff out and where the bodies might be buried. And that's why we see such an immediate rush, because how did he know to go after USAID? Right? How did he know where to end up looking?
That's the learning experience. Again, I said this before. We'll wrap up on this because we're a little over time. Donald Trump, with 2 terms separated, is more powerful than Donald Trump if he would have been inaugurated in 2021. Yeah. Because he knows more now than he would have known then. He knows how to fix things. He knows how to fight the different interests. If we got a Donald Trump second term in 2021, I don't think USAID gets gutted.
No.
We certainly don't get the FBI gutted. We don't get the CIA gutted. No, this is Donald Trump playing for keeps. It's exciting. Not tired yet. Not tired. A little tired.
Nope,
not tired yet. A little bit tired, but not tired yet. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like it, subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Like, share, all that fun stuff. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on X Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We also have the audio edition of the podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, Audible, all great places. Subscribe to that. It'll auto-download. You can listen as you go about your day. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.
See ya.